Plus a great summarizing overview.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It is, but for you listening, whether you're a busy EFL teacher or just an insanely curious self-learner, our goal is to just cut through all the hype. We want to give you a shortcut to exactly what works, what definitely doesn't, and how to use the stuff without sabotaging yourself.
Because it's very easy to sabotage yourself if you aren't careful.
So true. So before we look at how AI helps us speak, which is, terrifying for a lot of people, I think we have to look at how it helps us write.
Right, because writing is really where this AI intern gets its most rigorous workout. It's a very structured environment.
Yeah, and that brings us to this diachronic study out of Taiwan. They were looking at human feedback versus GPT-4 feedback.
And just to clarify, diachronic means they tracked these 26 college students over a longer period, right? It wasn't just a one-off test.
Exactly, over a whole semester. And they wanted to see, okay, who is really doing the work here? The AI or the teacher? And the division of labor was super interesting.
Yeah, the researchers found that GPT-4 is, it's highly effective at local edits.
Local edits meaning like the grammar.
Yeah, grammar, spelling, sentence level clarity. It catches all those tiny mechanical errors. But it completely falls short on global concerns. Higher order thinking, basically.
There was this one specific detail from the source that just nailed this. GPT-4 flags all these minor grammatical errors, right? And then awkward phrases. But it takes an actual human instructor to notice when a student is just kind of weakening their academic tone.
Oh, yeah, a lot of examples.
Yes. This student kept using the phrase a lot of over and over, like a lot of people think or whatever, and the AI just let it slide.
Right, because grammatically, a lot of is perfectly fine. There's no broken rule for the intern to fix.
Exactly. But the human teacher stepped in and was like, hey, you're writing an academic paper. You should use words like considerable or substantial. The AI totally missed the nuance of the academic tone.
Which is a huge blind spot.
Yeah.
And it really leads perfectly into the Hong Kong study. Because if the AI has these blind spots, how are students actually interacting with it when the teacher isn't looking?
Oh, man. This study of 44 secondary students was wild. They were writing these feature articles, and the researchers actually screen recorded what they were doing.
Yeah, they were looking at this concept called rhetorical load responsibility.
Yeah.
Which basically asks, who is in charge of the actual thinking?
Right, like who is carrying the mental weight?
Exactly. Are we doing machine-in-the-loop writing where the human leads the creative direction? Or is it human-in-the-loop writing, where the AI just kind of takes over and the human monitors it?
And the profiles they found were, honestly, a little alarming to me. They broke it down into 3 types.
The majority, 52% of these kids, were AI dominant.
Yeah,
over half. They were basically using the AI as an article generator. They used what the study calls detailed natural language instruction. So telling the AI, write a 500-word article on this.
And then they just kept hitting the rewrite prompt until they liked it.
Pretty much. Then you had 25% who were human dominant, so they did the heavy lifting themselves. And only 14% were what they called collaborative.
But here is the big twist that just blew my mind. Despite these totally different approaches, there was no significant difference in their actual writing performance.
Right. Content, language, organization. The final scores were basically a tie.
Which I have to push back on this, because if letting the AI carry the rhetorical load doesn't actually improve your final score, aren't we just completely cheating ourselves out of learning?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's like using a GPS so much that you forget how to navigate your own neighborhood. You get this kind of cognitive debt.
That is the perfect analogy. And the researchers actually have a term for that. They call it metacognitive laziness.
Metacognitive laziness. Wow.
Yeah, because if you aren't struggling with the ideas, you aren't building those neural pathways.
Yeah.
So for the listener, the takeaway here is super clear. Do not let the AI do the thinking for you.
Right. Use it as a tool, not a crutch.
Exactly. You want a blended workflow.
Yeah.
Use the AI for those surface-level local edits, but rely on your own human brain for the big picture ideas. You have to stay in charge.
Okay, so we've seen that relying too heavily on AI for writing leads to this cognitive debt. But what happens when we move from the structured world of writing to the highly unpredictable, terrifying world of speaking.
The stakes feel so much higher when you have to speak out loud.
They really do. And here's where it gets really interesting, because there was this study in Japan with 43 university students, and it focused on foreign language anxiety.
Which is a very real, very intense phenomenon.
Yeah, it's not just butterflies, it's the physiological dread of speaking up, the fear of negative evaluation.
Well, it comes from this massive gap between what they call the true self and the limited foreign language self.
Wait, explain that a bit more.
Sure. So in your native language, you're smart, you're funny, you can express complex thoughts, right? That's your true self. But when you try to speak a new language, you suddenly sound like a toddler.
Ooh, I hate that feeling. You just feel so clumsy.
Exactly. You're trapped in this limited foreign language self, and it causes huge anxiety. Heart pounding, trembling, the whole thing.
But this study found an incredible use case for AI here. They had the students use generative AI to prep and rehearse their sentences before they ever had to speak to a human peer.
Just as a pre-task rehearsal tool.
Right. And when they did that, their physiological symptoms, like the heart pounding, dropped significantly. I kind of think of it like putting training wheels on a bicycle.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it gives you this low-stakes environment to just build your muscle memory before you head out into actual traffic, you know?
It lowers the barrier to entry. But what happens if the AI isn't just the rehearsal space? What if the AI actually is the conversation partner?
Right, which brings us to the U.S. study. They looked at ChatGPT's voice modes for ESL practice. And they compared a standard, uncustomized mode against a highly customized one.
And this customization wasn't just, telling it to be friendly. They actually built the prompt around 4 established educational theories.
Right. It was motivation theory, culturally responsive teaching, or CRT, communicative language teaching, and my personal favorite, the effective filter hypothesis.
The effective filter is so crucial here.
Can you just quickly remind the listener how that works?
Sure. Basically, when a learner is stressed or anxious, this invisible effective filter goes up in their brain, and it literally blocks them from absorbing the language.
Wow, so they just stop learning.
Exactly. But if you lower the anxiety, you lower the filter, and the learning can actually happen. So what's fascinating here is how drastically the customized prompt changed the AI's behavior to lower that filter.
Oh, the numbers on this are crazy. So an uncustomized standard mode, right? It gives what they call content responses basically 69% of the time.
Right. It just acts like an encyclopedia, just dumping information on you.
Which is terrible for a conversation. But when they use the customized standard mode, those content responses drop down to 23%.
And it replaced all that robotic info dumping with emotional support over 40% of the time.
40%.
Yeah. And it provided gentle corrective feedback 22% of the time.
That's amazing. It turned into an actual supportive tutor, though we should mention the one area where the AI totally failed.
Yes, the cultural responsiveness.
Right. Despite the prompts explicitly telling it to be culturally responsive, the AI couldn't truly adapt to the learner's actual cultural context.
Well, because it doesn't have a culture, doesn't have lived experience. It proves that AI isn't a perfect human replacement just yet. It can fake empathy, but it doesn't really understand cultural nuance.
Totally. But still, the big takeaway for you as a learner here is huge. If you're learning a language, you need to customize your AI prompt. Tell it to be emotionally supportive. Tell it to provide corrective feedback.
It transforms it from a generic robot into a customized tutor that actually helps lower your anxiety.
Exactly. Okay, so we know how AI should be used to write and speak. But when you leave students to their own devices out in the wild, what do they actually do?
This is where we have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, we have this massive multi-university survey from Japan. They polled 286 students across 3 different universities.
And across 5 very different majors, too. Business, contemporary society, economics, engineering, and public safety.
So a really broad mix of students. And the expert consensus here is pretty clear. ChatGPT is the undisputed king. That's what they're all using.
And they're mostly accessing it via their smartphones, which makes sense.
Yeah, they use it for quick translation, summarizing long texts. Interestingly, they rarely use it for actual exam prep, like for the TUEC or the TOEFL.
But the real twist here is how they engage with the answers it gives them. Are they just blindly trusting this thing?
You would think so, based on that Hong Kong study, but not quite. It turns out 50% of the business and contemporary society students don't verify the AI answers at all.
Which is a bit concerning.
A bit, yeah. But then over 60% of the engineering, economics, and public safety students actively check and correct the AI.
Right, because they're trained to spot systemic errors. They know this technology hallucinates or just sounds completely unnatural sometimes.
So what does this all mean? When they asked the students why they don't use AI more often, the most common answer was literally just, translation software is sufficient.
They don't see it as some magical oracle. They just view it as a utility tool, like a calculator.
Exactly. Which brings up a really important policy implication for schools.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, behaviors and attitudes are remarkably similar across all these different majors. So educational institutions that try to completely ban AI, it's neither realistic nor productive.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
You really can't. Instead of banning it, we need to be actively teaching AI literacy.
Yes. Teaching them how to verify, how to prompt, how to not fall into metacognitive laziness.
Exactly.
Well, we have covered so much ground today. Let's distill all of this into 3 immediate, actionable takeaways that you, the listener, can apply right now.
Okay, number 1, adopt a blended feedback workflow.
Right. Use the AI first for those local grammatical edits. Let it fix your commas, but rely on human teachers or your own brain for the actual ideas, organization, and strategy.
Number 2, use AI as a rehearsal space. If you get nervous speaking, lower that anxiety by running through your thoughts with a customized voice mode AI before you ever talk to a real person.
Put those training wheels on. And number 3, implement a prompting strategy checklist. Use a system like accept, adapt, reject.
I love that framework.
It's so good. Keep a reflection log of what you're accepting, adapting, or rejecting so you stay firmly in the driver's seat and maintain that rhetorical load.
And that actually leads me to one final lingering thought for everyone to mull over.
Oh, let's hear it.
We've talked a lot about using AI to perfectly polish our grammar, to generate our ideas, and to calm our physiological anxieties before we even open our mouths. But do we risk losing something in that process?
Losing what exactly?
The messy, vulnerable, deeply human friction of learning. Because sometimes stumbling through a sentence and laughing about a mistake with a native speaker is what makes connecting through a new language so rewarding in the first place.
Wow. If the machine smooths out all the friction, we might just miss out on the actual human connection.
That is a fantastic point to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay insanely curious, keep exploring this material on your own, and we'll catch you next time.